Coyote Gold
Grover,
margaritas.
why don't you mute? We actually have people in. We're going to go live here in a minute.
Am I muted?
No, you're not.
Okay.
Hey, welcome everybody. I'm John Caldera of the Independence Institute in our Studio B bar. I am thrilled to be with you on Cinco de Mayo. This is, it's Cinco de Mayo, which lands on Taco Tuesday during a pandemic named after a Mexican beer. We know it's set up for drinking. I want to do a special shout out to my friends at Coyote Gold Margaritas. They know how to do Cinco de Mayo right. So please, if you're looking for the perfect margarita, we're going to be drinking these all night. And I'm not only looking forward to their premix ones, they've got them in cans, including, finally, low carb. So I get pretty silly with margaritas. It's going to be incredible. You want to be part of this. A good buddy of mine, Grover Norquist, is going to join us. But before we get to that, let me just remind you, if you want to be part of the party, grab a drink. Drinks are required. And go to the Zoom part of this meeting. You can raise your hand if you want to join in. That doesn't mean actually raising your physical hand. It means hitting the button that says raise hand, and we'll get you on, but you have to have a drink in your hand. Otherwise, you can't be part of that party. So let me bring it over to somebody I've known for, oh my God, at least 22, 24 years or something. Grover, your beard is getting grayer. Thank you for being with us. Grover Norquist from Americans for Tax Reform.
John, good to be with you.
So you've been, before we get into Coronaville, let's talk about just before the pandemic struck, of where our economy was. And first of all, you are drinking, I hope. You have a drink somewhere in that beautiful home. There we go.
Jack Daniels.
Nice. American. Where was the economy before this struck? You were one of the architects, along with Steve Moore and some other good folks, of pushing in the tax reforms that Trump did. So I want to start there, and then I want to fall into the pandemic. Where were we heading?
Well, before we cut taxes, before we deregulated, when the president got elected, we were at a point where we'd had a 7.5-year recovery, except for the first 6 months of Obama. We were technically growing, but the rate was so low, the rate of growth, that it was the worst recovery since the Second World War. Worse than all of the various ones, and we were millions of people behind what Ronald Reagan's growth rate would have given us, and the stock market was faltering. Remember, there's an 800-point swing when they realized that Trump won, meaning that the market understands that lower taxes and deregulation work. We took the corporate rate from highest in the world, 35%. Communist China's at 25. We were at 35. We had a higher tax rate than France, which is not where you want to be. So we brought those rates down, cut individual rates for every single American, doubled the personal exemption, went to full expensing for the next 5 years. And we really saw the economy strengthen to the point where one month, 70% of the people who got jobs that month had not even been looking for jobs before that they had gotten discouraged under the Obama years. And so the economy was doing extremely well. And this was going to be the
let me jump in there for a second. The part that really excited me about this Trump economy explosion was was that people on the lower end of the economic scale were getting raises at a faster rate than rich people. You know, the thing that Bernie said we needed, that AOC said we needed, was actually happening. You know, if you were trying to design a way to make sure that Trump couldn't get reelected, it would take a pandemic to stop him at that point. The economy was moving forward. First of all, where are you right now? You're sheltered in place at home, I'm assuming.
I'm at home, yes. Washington, D.C., Capitol Hill.
And can we have your exact street address and social security number?
People can come on over.
Come on over. I've been so absolutely flabbergasted by how people seem very comfortable with the stay-at-home orders, the shutdown. I have never witnessed anything like this. This was a government turnoff of the economy. From your perspective, dealing with senators, dealing with everything you do at ATR, dealing with the president himself, what's the view from DC? Are they disconnected? So disconnected they don't see it.
Well, they're scared to death because the experts have told us that if you don't do X, everyone dies. The challenge is that's the way they tried to sell us global warming and doing this to the entire economy for the next 100 years, because in 100 years, the temperature might increase by a couple points, maybe. The problem for the experts is this time they sort of said in 4 months we'll be in a certain place. And they've had to keep moving that because whatever their expectations were or projections, they haven't been accurate. They've moved all around. Different countries have gone in different directions. I thought that the global warming people, well, first global cooling, then global warming, then climate change people, wisely said, in 100 years, you'll know we're true. Until then, nothing. You just have to trust the experts to do everything we say. With 100 years, that makes it awfully tough to to argue with somebody whose proof is 100 years from now, but certain. But there was this argument. Remember that there was a fear that enough people would get the virus quickly that the 100 people would show up at the hospital in a city and they only had 50 respirators, and so you had to tell 50 people you're going to die. And if you'd had enough respirators, no. So flatten the curve so that the people who get the virus do so over a period of time. We did that. We flattened the curve. We have more than enough respirators. We have all the masks you could want. I don't understand those people who want to continue to shut the economy down and keep everybody at home, given that we just did what they wanted us to do. We accomplished what they said it would do. Now it's up, they now have to show us that this actually does what they think it's going to do. I worry that some of the blue state governors like the idea of all this power and being able to tell people what to do. They're not letting the Republican legislatures come back into, in Kansas, I was just talking to legislators there. The governor doesn't want the legislature to come back and do anything. Likes being mini dictator. Michigan, DC. It really is coming out the people who simply like to run other people's lives, and we're being told that this will last until they've changed society. That's what our mayor said in DC.
I'm seeing the biggest bait and switch of my life, in that I've never seen people so scared, so absolutely able to be kowtowed. So we've got these things that leftists, at least when I was a kid, would scream against. I'm talking about the good people on the left, the ACLU, the People for the American Way. We have police drones in New Jersey chasing people, flying propaganda machines saying you must you must return to your home. You must cover up. You are breaking the law. We've got people being snitched. We've got people being told their kids can't play with other kids. And it's just mind-boggling to me that both the
These are the
progressive
same
left,
people who say that the Iranians, when they have special police who tell people they're not dressed properly, they go, that's awful. I'm not quite sure what's different between that and what's going on here.
because they say, and people believe that it's saving lives. I believe that our team Turn on the American Engine, has done a crap job of explaining that more people are going to die because of what we're doing. That is, when unemployment is high, what did they say? For every half point of unemployment, 10,000 people die. That we talked to District Attorney George Brockler here the other day, and it was fascinating going into the child abuse numbers, which are down, but that's only because kids aren't in school, they're not going to their troop meetings, they're not seeing their doctors. So those people who report child abuse aren't reporting it. You know, if we care about people and lives, we got to stop doing this. But somehow they've won the narrative. Tell me about this, and then we'll go into some Zoomers here.
Because they don't care about all that stuff. They care about winning an election in November. You saw Bill Maher, the chief theoretician for the modern Democratic Party, explain he wanted a recession because then Trump would lose. He wanted to see people out of work, small businesses destroyed, people's lives interrupted and damaged because political reason. And the left is looking over a precipice with the Janus decision that says that you can't take union dues from 5.5 million people without their permission and spend them on politics. That is the funding for the modern Democratic Party. They're losing elections if they can't steal votes. The tax cuts that they said would be devastating are creating jobs and opportunity and wealth for all Americans. People's 401ks were growing. They are terrified that everything they told us was palpably not true, demonstrably not true, and that less government and less regulation was making the world a better place. They have to stop this by any means necessary. Kavanaugh was a testing zone. It's going to get more and worse between now and the election. They will blame everybody who dies of the flu, any flu, on Trump, or try to anyway.
Hey, well, let's grab some of the folks who want to zoom in to this cocktail party. Let's talk to John Henderson. Hey, John, tell me. I'm drinking Coyote Gold margaritas. What are you drinking?
I have Knob Creek Rye.
Knob Creek Rye.
Knob Creek Rye. They do a rye whiskey, and it's just fine. Of all the topics I could discuss today, we're off of modern monetary theory. That's right now a lost cause. But I was actually waging war today on my neighborhood group, which covers several square miles in the Broomfield, Erie area. The good, the bad, and the ugly. I would say I got about 20 or 25% support for some of the things I was saying, statistics, looking at the real numbers coming out of New York, the misreporting of COVID deaths, the total absence of national commentary on excess death rates. 450,000 people roughly die in the United States every 60 days. And in New York, there are specific statistics from mid-March to mid-April. The death rate last year, pre-COVID, about 13,000 people died. This year, about 16,000, which looks like 3,000 excess deaths. But they reported 9,000 COVID deaths, with a huge decrease in heart attack, stroke.
All right, you're getting to the larger point, which I think a lot of us are feeling. We got a case here, and I think it was Channel 9 even that took a look at it, of cases that the coroner says wasn't COVID related, but the Department of Health says is COVID. Let's bring it to Grover. I'm curious, Grover, from your point of view, as this money is being doled out, are you seeing some funny things happening with the numbers?
If something is COVID related, damage, death, then you get more money to your state, to your city. What do you think they're going to do?
Over-report.
You, without having, looked at any of the evidence, I would be willing to bet that if something teetered on the edge or even was close to the edge or within eyesight of the edge, they would tip it over and announce probably COVID. What's the cost of that? None. You get more money, you get more attention, the government throws more money at you. It's what you would expect rational people to do in reaction to that incentive structure.
Well,
Hey, Grover, let me get to Grover here. Hey, John, thanks so much. You do a few different things. Not only do you have a tax pledge that people need to, in order to get your okay, sign a pledge that says we're not going to raise taxes, and it's made the difference in a lot of elections. You also do a lot of coalition building. We do that here at Independence as well, where we bring in the dysfunctional center-right coalition that once you get them in the room and start talking, you find out we have a whole lot more in common. You do this sort of thing in DC. You do it weekly. I've been part of these meetings. They're huge. Now you have to do it by Zoom and all sorts of other things.
Yeah.
It's great to see that's going on, but can't we get government to stop? Is it better that they Zoom into office? How is the Senate going to do their thing this year, and how are you going to do your coalition building?
Well, we've shifted over immediately to working with Microsoft Teams and working on video conferencing. About half of the states that have meetings like the Colorado center-right meeting are on video. 25 international meetings, Paris, Germany, Rome, and it's really upped our ability, certainly my ability, to attend all of these meetings when you can do it by video. And we've got all the state groups get together themselves to talk about what's going on. The international meetings get together. It is another tool that the modern conservative movement has to get together and meet. The in-person thing, I think, is just so important to be able to be there, engage how smart everybody is, how serious their projects are, to watch them week after week, month after month, and realize they're accomplishing what they said they were going to. This is real, this project they talked about. And to see the Leave Us Alone coalition functioning, where homeschoolers who want to be left alone to homeschool, and the Second Amendment community wants to be left alone with their gun rights, and small businessmen and people of faith. You want to be left, if the most important thing is to be left alone in the most important zone of your life, we can all work together because we're not in conflict. Because the guy who wants to go to church all day, and the guy who wants to make money all day, and the guy who wants to fondle his guns all day, they don't agree how to spend their time, but they all want a government small enough to leave us alone. And you just see it in each of these meetings, that people bring their central issue forward that matters most to them. And it's new ones. I want to be able to vape, stop smoking and vape. I don't want the government to tell me what to do on that. Uber, I want to be legally allowed to be an Uber driver. How about that? Millions of people that are getting screwed by the government can join our side if we just work on looking for them as they're banging on the door and trying to crawl through the window, and let them in, rather than go, what are you doing here? And you're not here for the right reason. No, the reason to have freedom is something. No. All reasons, all desire for freedom are good reasons to advance freedom for everybody.
Let's bring in a few more folks who went into this. Let's go to the Zoomers here. Let's talk to Honest Liberty, really Honest Liberty. I'm drinking Coyote Gold. What are you drinking, Honest Abe?
Fresh off the run, bud. I would be doing something for Cinco de Mayo, but I decided today was the day to run something. I think that's a fair name. Honest. We need to speak honestly about what liberty means, and I'm seeing a lot of people that just don't seem to be bothered by it. What do we do as people who are center right, far right, maybe even left of center? What can we do to get people to realize that there's much more at stake here, and it's time for us to take positive, nonviolent action to take back our Constitution? And I'll leave that to you. Thank you.
Yeah, let me bring that to Grover, because a lot of people are feeling this, and there's a lot of talk of trying to do civil disobedience. I know our friend Jennifer from Water's Edge Winery is trying to open up her store, and they want to shut her down. Grover,
Mhm.
Matthew's question is a good one. What are people supposed to do?
Well, here's the cheerful news. The reaction to the COVID virus has led to more than 400 specific deregulatory actions by the federal and state governments. And Americans for Tax Reform has them all. We're collecting them, and if you know of more, we'll add them in. But last I looked, a day or so, it was more than 400, where the government decided we're in the way of fighting a pandemic. The FDA was slowing things down. The CDC was slowing things down with their damn rules and wanting to run everything and be a monopoly and not let anything move until you say, "Mother, may I?" And then out to the states, where a doctor in one state isn't a doctor necessarily in another state. You know, your marriage license is good as you cross the country. Your driver's license is good, but your anesthesiology license is not. This is nonsense. And the lessons that have come out of this have not, we needed more government. Great Rasmussen poll. Do you think a government-run healthcare system would have helped or hurt in this fight? 2-to-1, people said it would have made things worse. So our friends on the left are not winning brownie points or "I told you so's" when people look at how the government reacted and better.
But Grover,
the private
they are winning when it comes to the narrative. People seem to be, even people on our side, seem to be so scared they're willing to stay inside. They're willing to follow these rules. They back up a lot of this. Furthermore, we're losing because people are being paid now not to work. We're not going to see a recovery until after July, when this silly extra $600 a week goes away. I've talked to so many restaurant owners who are trying to get their business going again, but their guys won't come back to work. Why would they come back to work when they're making more money not working? Oh, and furthermore, we're printing $3 trillion out of thin air. So yeah, we're winning on some regulatory stuff, granted, but let me suggest they're winning, and big.
No, you're trying to be too depressive. And you put your finger on the stupidest thing that the administration did, which is to agree to increasing unemployment through August 1st. On August 1st, you'll see 8 million people come back to work. I mean, it'll be really impressive. August, September, October, just before the election, we're going to see quite, the spurt in employment. That could have happened next week, not in August. That was a disaster. You should have seen it coming. They should have seen it coming. The D's won that round. Still, it was a temporary stupid, painful and temporary, but stupid and very destructive. I'm stepping back. People's reaction to all these emergency laws, those emergency laws were on the books, okay? But now that we've seen their fangs, I think we'll see a pruning back. I was talking to a state Senate leader from a red state. They're going to get all of the horror stories and then ban those in their state and have a list of horribles of things that the Democratic governor of Wisconsin or New York or California or Michigan have been doing. And we will claw back some of those powers that the government has when you have an emergency.
Look, let me be negative Nelly one more time. A lot of those emergency powers came from Republicans after 9/11 saying government needs more authority. We are being tracked by our cell phones to see if we're properly distancing because a Republican president and a Republican Congress passed the Patriot Act, allowing them to have free access to all of our data. The laws that are happening in Colorado giving unelected officials, unelected technocrats, power to shut down entire counties, even though they are not accountable to anyone, came after 9/11. And a lot of that has to do with our team. Fair?
Oh, look, yes, our team got bamboozled into that when that list of powers for the Patriot Act was largely put together by the Clinton people. And they wanted those powers in reaction to the Oklahoma bombing in the late 90s. And when they put that forward, the Republicans in the House and Senate said, are you crazy? No government should have that kind of power. No. And they didn't let them have it. Well, then 9/11 happened. And even though the Attorney General, the Republican Attorney General, said nothing in the Patriot Act would have stopped anything on September 11th, nothing, okay? No connection at all. Even 2020 hindsight, was there any use for this legislation? Now, eat it. All of it. Now. And I sat in a room with the conservatives in the House, along with the ACLU, the National Rifle Association, and we did triage on that bill. And about a third of it should never be law. A third you could live with if it was only for terrorist cases. And a third was okay. Okay. But the administration yelled at Denny Hastert, the speaker, and he passed the whole thing. I testified in the Senate against the Patriot Act 2 weeks after 9/11 and said, guys, can I suggest that since you're going to pass this thing without reading it, and I said, you should read it. And all the senators laughed. I said, okay, I know you have no intention of reading it. It's 300 pages. Pass it for 2 years. So then if something goes boom in 3 weeks, it's not your fault because you did something. But 2 years from now, we can look back and say, this was good, this was okay, this was a big mistake, and let it lapse in 2 years and repass the necessary bits. We got a teeny bit of it, time limited. We did not stand up quick enough, hard enough to say no. And I really like my idea of saying, do it for 2 years. Do it for 2 years, okay? They can't kill us all in 2 years.
Keep in mind that worked when we fought the assault weapon ban under Clinton. It was time limited for a decade. It made no difference in any statistic in anywhere, and it went away. Let's grab some more of these Zoom calls. By the way, if you want to be part of it, just raise your hand in the Zoom meeting. If you're on FaceTime or YouTube or Caucus Room, go to the Zoom meeting and use a little button that says raise hand because we want you to come and drink with us. Marty Nielsen is out there. Marty, tell me, what are you drinking tonight? Hi, Marty Nielsen.
I'm drinking a Stinger.
What is a Stinger?
Right.
A Stinger is cream de mint and brandy.
Oh, that is a girl's drink.
Maybe, but it's good.
It is good. For those who don't know, Marty has been a champion for limited government for years and years here in Colorado, working with a great Colorado Union of Taxpayers. What do you have for us, Marty?
I want to know what we can do. It's getting worse, not better. These erosions of our liberty are getting worse, not better. What can we do?
Let's bring it to Grover. So Grover's working on the federal side. I think a lot of this is on the state side. We're seeing now that the tyranny of governors is being now devolved to tyranny of municipalities. I'm worried about power-hungry mayors and town councils. Grover, what can people do?
Oh, absolutely. Look, this is one of those situations where you're seeing who everyone is in power. And the people who lunge for more and more power and announce that you can't, the Michigan governor, you can't drive in your car to your second home on the lake and go fishing. You know, this has nothing to do with health, right? You're at home, you're in your car alone, you're in your beach house, your lake house all by yourself. They just don't like that.
But what can we do?
They made it very, some of them not opening gun stores. Florida saying, oh, we don't have time to do concealed carry permits. We're too busy doing something else. There have been real outrages, and I think raising the visibility of those and asking government why, getting them to say out loud to the press in writing exactly how much power that they think they have and that they want, and the minor challenges to their authority gets them screaming, and you see the fangs and the claws, and you realize what we're dealing with. Because 2 months from now and 2 years from now, that behavior is going to be viewed much less forgivingly than it is right now.
You know, for here in Colorado, for instance, while you can go to a liquor store to buy your Coyote Gold margarita, now in 2 different cans, and that's considered essential. You can go to a marijuana shop because that is considered essential. You want a cigar from Smoker Friendly, that isn't essential. You want a vape, that's not essential. So the tobacco stores can't do it. So we have these little Napoleons running around who
Yeah.
are making these decisions. People want to do something that is disobedient to show that this is wrong, but at the same time they want to do it in a way that shows, no, we're not trying to scare people away. Our friends at Water's Edge Winery are opening up for business, and from what I hear, they're getting cited by the state and threatened to be closed down. So lose your business or try to open your business and lose your business and perhaps go to jail.
John, all of us, even the people who aren't John Galt and small businessmen, all of us can do something. Get mad, stay mad, vote. Because remember what they did. Remember the power they claim against your life, and vote as if your life mattered, as if your ability to be free mattered. Because who would have believed that we had all these would-be little Mussolinis running around at the state and county level? Okay, I have a couple of the governors picked out for that job, but not the thousands that have shown up all across the country who've made it clear their hostility to the idea of liberty.
What do you think the possibility is of a real backlash this year? Right now, the common sense is, Trump was going to get reelected because the economy was humming. Unemployment was at a forever low. Black unemployment, Hispanic unemployment, all at historic lows. People at the lower end of the scale getting raises at faster rates than those at the higher end. And so right now, it looks as though the left has a huge advantage this fall. Here in Colorado, Cory Gardner's numbers don't look encouraging today. But I've got to wonder, in 6 months, when a recession turns into what looks like a depression, if this isn't a huge advantage. And I'm worried that Republicans aren't running for enough offices and that people aren't going to go out and vote. Do you think this is an opportunity for the right? You're an eternal optimist.
I am an optimist on that because what is it? In a bullfight, the picadors come out and they throw these little darts into the bull to piss him off and make him more interesting to fight the matador. Okay. And what all of these little mini tyrants want to do is they've been throwing darts into us and say, hey, those of you guys who want to go to church, we can take that away. We're this close to telling you you can't do that. Your Second Amendment, gone if we have a chance. Oh, by the way, they're discriminating against charter schools. 3 million students going to charter schools, and around the country, the teachers' unions are using this as an opportunity to lean on the charter schools. You saw the Harvard faculty decide to open up on homeschooling, 2 million kids homeschool. They have shown up and they've said to the homeschoolers, like that lady from the Wizard of Oz, we're going to get you homeschoolers, we're going to get you charter school people, and you taxpayers and you God people, we've had, just wait till we can get you. I think that fear of state power is a much more motivating factor than, isn't the economy doing great? That's wonderful. I want the economy to do great. I want it to be wonderful. That does not drive people to the polls.
Also, I wonder this fall, who do you trust more to keep the economy going? Trump or Biden? But let's grab a few more of these Zoom calls. Hey, let's talk to Tim Jackson. Tim, tell me, what are you drinking tonight?
Well, I'm still on Red Bull here because it's not quitting time at the car shack.
Oh, that's right, because you actually don't drink at work. If you worked for me, you would.
Yeah, I hear you. Welcome, Grover. Good to have you on here. I'm telling Jonathan Fusio I saw you. And a shout out to Heidi Janal too. Hi, Heidi. I want to let you all know we're talking about the essential businesses and non-essential. So dealership, we represent dealerships, but dealership.
Let me jump in there. Let me jump in there.
But the sales offices were not. This report out just today, where we did a data dive through all 50 states. For those 15 states, like Michigan was mentioned earlier, closed down. So the purpose was to save lives, right, and to reduce coronavirus infections and all that. The 15 states that were closed had 76% of the fatalities since they were closed. So it didn't do
Well,
much
slow
on
down,
that.
Tim,
But it
Tim,
did
slow
on the
down,
flip
slow down,
side,
slow
by the
down.
way. What?
Slow down. First of all, for those who don't know, let me give a little background. Tim Jackson is good friend. He sells probably the most evil product in all of America. Four wheels, automobiles that get people to their jobs, get machines to where they need to go. The heartbeat of America is people's mobility. Tim runs an organization that represents those evil car dealers and their bad commercials, by the way. You're telling me
Some of
that,
them are good though, right?
yeah. So why is selling a car a essential business?
It's apparently not.
And no one's going to work, so no one's buying your product. How bad is it?
Well, we just got them opened up on Saturday, so the trend can be corrected. My counterpart from New Jersey was on Fox and Friends at 7 a.m. this morning and said that the state of New Jersey is losing $415 million a day in sales tax revenues by their showrooms not being open. Our
Wow.
report was a little bit lower, but Colorado's a smaller state than New Jersey.
So what is the one thing, Tim, that they could do for you? What is it you need the most?
Well, I think we need everybody to know that it didn't achieve the goal of reducing fatalities because those states had the highest fatalities, but it did have the unintended consequence of costing the economy and state tax coffers.
And for those who don't know, and Grover will get this in a second, which is not only did the state close your guys down, the state now is going to tell you what cars you can sell under these ridiculous emission standards. So Colorado emission standards don't count. We are tied to whatever the governor, literally the governor of California, gets to make the emission rules to tell us what cars and trucks we can sell.
Well, that's true. We were already under that before the COVID-19 event.
Hey, Grover, is this happening all over the country? Who gets to decide what is an essential business? And I know Trump stopped a lot of travel, a lot of immigration, a lot of different things, but isn't most of this slowdown caused by governors?
It is, and the president was very wise to look at federalism and say we have 50 states. The difficulty of doing one thing for the whole country, New York and California would whine, and all the press would announce because they live in New York and California, everybody here hates this new opening up. By giving it to 50 states, all the states that are beginning to move in a sensible way, now we're seeing California and some other states go, oh yeah, us too. So it will open up much faster if you allow the states to decide than for Washington, D.C., one size fits all decision. So I think this is going to move faster than people expect. I think we're going to see those lagging Democrat governors who go, no, I want to stick with tyranny, be increasingly isolated as the other states rebound first and don't have the virus crisis.
God, I so hope you're right, Grover, but I think of this state of Colorado where progressives have destroyed the oil and gas industry. So they were already on their knees before this thing hit. And then the governor destroys the tourism industry. And it is quite possible that our entire summer, concerts, festivals, sporting events, everything about summer will be canceled. That is our second biggest industry. So oil and gas, tourism, and the wheels of business. And now, while the governor is backing away, smaller tyrants, like in the city and county of Denver, today is Cinco de Mayo, which is a good reason, again, to have a Coyote Gold margarita, but we're not forced to wear our masks until tomorrow, the day after. So for some reason, today it's okay not to have masks. Tomorrow in the city and county of Denver, you could face a $1,000 fine for not wearing a mask. So something magic happens at the stroke of midnight, and I'm not too sure what.
They're just playing with the rules, having fun, pushing people around. I do see. Look, when somebody in a city recognizes that they're being picked on in a way that other people in the suburbs and the rural areas aren't, I think it'll be easier for people to vote out mayors and city councilmen and to fix this challenge. I do see a backlash against painful, annoying, the government that tells you what kind of light bulbs to have and dishwashers to have and washing machines to have, and that Trump has just moved through the significant deregulation on corporate average fuel economies, and they told California, your rules don't apply anymore.
I hope it works here. I tell you what, let's grab more of these Zoom calls. They're really stacking up. Hey, everybody, thanks for your patience on this. The more I drink, the sloppier it's going to get. So bear with us. Let's keep rolling with this. Let's talk to D. Hey, D, tell me, what are you drinking tonight?
Well, I'm drinking Canadian whiskey, Crown Royal.
Ooh,
It's very good. Very good.
Draft dodging bastard. What's wrong with American whiskey?
Hey, Grover, thanks for everything you do. I got 2 points I want to make. One, is not the Republican Party, do they not have an opportunity for a national issue in this election to make school choice a civil rights issue?
Yeah.
And argue the choice position and that school choice is a civil right that single moms and soccer moms, and there's the vote that they've been losing a chance to get it. That's my first question. The second one, on my way over here, John, my wife told me that Ruth Bader Ginsburg was just admitted to the hospital. Have anybody heard about that? Anything about that?
I have not. I have not heard that. Well, I tell you what, we'll check on it. Now, mind you, when it comes to Ruth Bader Ginsburg, she suffers from the exact same condition that Keith Richards of the Rolling Stones has, which is they've both been dead for about a decade, but no one's ever told them. So they will just keep going. Let's bring it to Grover.
To the first point, where school choice is a powerful issue, this is both possible. We saw it in the Florida race in 2018. The Republican governor won that election because about 50,000 African-American mothers whose kids had school choice because of Governor Bush's initiatives in that state over the last decade or so, where we actually have tens of thousands of kids getting school choice, and the Democrat governor candidate said, we're going to take that away. And the Republican conservatives said, no, we're not. And so votes moved over in a election that was tight. We have a Supreme Court decision nominally about a Montana school choice issue. It's really up or down on the Blaine amendments. The Blaine amendments being the constitutional amendments, and in some cases laws in many states, almost all the states, that says you can't take taxpayer money and send it to private schools. And those were passed, and specifically to destroy the private school movement among Roman Catholics with the parochial schools. And it was explicitly religious bigotry. It was on the floor of the late state legislatures, on the floor of Congress when they passed these things. That's what it was about. That may be struck down by the Supreme Court, which will open up the legality, make it clearer that it's legal to have your dollars stay with you, your tax dollars stay with you, and go to private school with it. I share your view that that would change the world. And I think it is what the president should run on. I think he can run on it. The court decision will help on that. But Mr. President, if you're listening, let's focus on this. This is a winning issue for you.
The other part of that, of course, is that we've got now more and more people who are homeschooling. Some of them actually like it. So that is a huge plus. They're not going to want to give it up. And then, of course, that goes right into sentencing reform, because as more and more kids are being homeschooled, more and more of them will be murdered by their parents, and we need to keep them out of jail.
I think we will see more homeschoolers. I think you see more people go to college online, saving a lot of money. There's 700,000 college professors around the country at this point. The economy doesn't need to be larding up student debt so that Elizabeth Warren can get $400,000 to teach one course. That stuff has got to go. That corruption has got to end. And online education does that.
Let's grab a few more of these Zoom calls. Again, if you want to be on, just raise your hand. That doesn't mean raise your physical hand. Down in the bottom of the screen, raise that hand, and we will get to you. Let's talk to Kathleen. Kathleen, tell me, what are you drinking?
I am having a Hop Valley IPA, and I'm just a little bit insulted that you said that Tim was the most evil. I think I'm the most evil, being representing the oil and natural gas industry. So
that's true, but you've already been defeated. You're now a dead industry in Colorado. Poor Tim Jackson, he's still kind of moving along slowly until all the light rail kills him. He still thinks he's alive until RTD puts him out. By the way, tell us, how bad has this been for oil and gas? Not only was last year's Senate Bill 181 just devastating to the state, and then along comes this. What is the condition of your industry?
it's a bloodbath out there. So we are fighting a dual crisis of the price war between Saudi Arabia and Russia and the lack of demand due to coronavirus. And of course, in Colorado, it's a triple whammy with the hostile regime in place. So yeah, companies are moving to New Mexico and Texas and Wyoming as fast as they can.
Well, terrific. Soon they'll just leave America altogether. What else do you have?
I don't know about that. I think we have a little bit more support than that, but certainly not in Colorado. You know, I was going to ask a different question, but bringing up education, and we just celebrated the 50th year of the Department of Education. I'd be curious on Grover's take if we can ever realize Rick Perry's vision of getting rid of the education department, if he remembered that, and the energy department, but that's another story too. Actually,
that's a terrific question. So, Grover, you made your bones back in the Reagan administration. You helped get Reagan National Airport named Reagan National Airport, which was the best thing ever, because flying into National, they would always say, "Welcome to National Airport, Washington National." And then when they had to say, "Welcome to Reagan National Airport," you could almost hear it hurt their throats when it came out. But Reagan had a chance to end the Department of Education that Carter put together just as a way to buy the union vote. Is it ever possible to see it go away? And if anybody could do it, it's got to be Trump.
What we need to do is simply take all the money that's spent there, just block grant it to the states, and let's say do it on education, do education stuff for this, because the damage the federal government does with the Department of Education is they come up with rules, and they don't spend money so much as they send rules out, and they make it more expensive for every college to function, more difficult for every K through 12 to function. There is no value added, and just block grant the whole thing out and let the states do something else with that money.
Is that a realistic thing to happen? I mean, we've been saying that since 1980, and you were already in your late 60s back then. Did I lose you? And it still hasn't happened. Did I lose you there, Grover?
I can hear you now.
Okay. I was saying that it didn't happen back in the 80s. In fact, the bureaucracy continued to grow. Under George W., we even increased it with No Child Left Behind. So even under a lot of Republican presidents, the bureaucracy grew and the bureaucracy grew, and now we're printing money out of thin air, and the bureaucracy is growing. Can it really be turned around? Yeah. I've been hearing you for a quarter of a century saying how we're winning, and I'm just not seeing it.
Well, we're winning in a bunch of zones. This is not one of them right now. What the virus has given us is two things. All Americans with kids now have some experience with homeschooling because they were home with their kids for a semester, a good chunk of a semester, looking at what the schoolwork was, looking at the content, and realizing these kids are learning talking to a computer, and you don't need the big building, and you don't need the Olympic size swimming pool, and you don't need the salaries that dwarf anything the rest of the city workers are getting. So there's some real opportunities to move towards charter schools and homeschooling. And then for college, everybody at Harvard this year was told that we're not going to charge you for your hotel space here on campus. We're not going to charge you for your food because you're going, but we're going to charge you the same amount of money for your education, because online learning is the exact same value as the $400,000 Elizabeth Warren in the various schools. So they've told America that online learning is every bit as valuable, and they've said it out loud, and they put it in contracts, and they've taken money for it. I don't know how you continue to charge $40, $50, $60+ thousand a year for college when online learning remains an option, and a perfectly acceptable option, and one that every college student in America has lived with for a semester.
The city of Denver, unanimously, the city council voted to spend $2 million to take 700 homeless people and put them into an A-loft hotel. This is not a bad hotel. This is a 4-star hotel for the next month, including meals. So the reward for not working is you get a month of free Wi-Fi and HBO, 3 meals a day in what used to be a business hotel in the theater district of Denver. This is the giveaway.
My mother used to, yeah.
We are. Yeah, we're working the wrong side of the fence here, Grover. Let's go to some more Zoom calls. This has been terrific. Let's talk to Kevin. Hey, Kevin, tell me, what are you drinking? Don't worry, Kevin, we'll turn on your microphone. Tell us, what are you drinking?
I'm drinking a lovely Dunkel lager from Grimm Brothers in Loveland, Colorado.
Well, and also you've got that terrific backlight. You look like a 60 Minutes informant coming on to tell us how. So tell me, how did Bill Clinton touch you?
Sorry, it's the sun's going down over the butte. It's still a little bright up behind.
It's beautiful. You're beautiful. Trust me, I look better in dark lighting as well. What do you have for us?
So I've been chafing about something, and I'd love to get your opinion and Grover's. It strikes me that context is decisive. And the context that we've all bought is that it's about how many new infections, how many new hospitalizations, and how many deaths. The reason is because we're told that every hour on the hour, and we have been for a month now. And it strikes me that that's just intellectually dishonest. In Larimer County, as of today, there's 18 deaths versus 395 cases. That means that 95% recover.
Yeah. The statistics I've seen is that something like 92% of all COVID deaths happen to high risk categories. These are people who are older, who have immune issues. So 8% or less are from people outside those areas. Never before in history have we taken healthy people and quarantined them to destroy an economy. So let's bring it over to Grover. I know our friend John Fund has been doing some great work showing what's going on in Sweden and other countries. I am worried terribly that we're putting it ourselves. Every day we wait, more lives will be lost because the economy is not turned on. At some point, the president needs to stand not next to Fauci, but stand next to another modeler who says how many people are going to die if we keep having 30% unemployment.
I tend to think we're going to get this conversation in the rearview mirror, not in real time. That when people begin to look back at it, there will be a level of anger and unhappiness that experts who really were guessing, and they know that they're guessing, they came up with a model which is built on assumptions, and then you put the numbers in, and we saw this with the whole global warming effort in the hockey stick, that when you put random numbers in, you got the hockey stick. But we only knew that after. We didn't know it during. So, but I do think we should remember how angry we should be at those people who told us they knew, who told us it was science, and who told us there were no secondary effects of closing the economy down in higher suicides and more deaths.
Get back to some of these great callers. In the meantime, I'm going to crack open now from the, by the way, this was really good. 3.6 carbs. Their new light and lively margarita. By the way, Mo and Randy, thank you so much at Coyote Gold for this. So keep going. Let's talk to Gary. Gary, what are you drinking? Hi, Gary. What are you drinking? I know you're there. We'll turn off your microphone. Don't worry. Gary going once. Gary going twice. Never send a man in to do a woman's job. Let's talk to Abby. So, Abby, I can trust you to have a drink in your hand. What are you drinking?
I have wine again this week.
Yay. What type?
Yeah, it's box wine. It's the very fancy kind.
If you put a straw into the top of the box, it just looks like a big juice box. Nobody will know.
That's a great idea. I'll have that next week.
Okay.
Okay. So I have two questions. One, voting was mentioned, but I feel like by November, or by the time we can vote our council people out and all these different things, that seems like a very long time from now to me. And so what can we do to fight the government overreach? I worry that it will be too late by then. And
too late for what? What do you mean by too late?
And
by the way, this is one of the problems of you being young. 6 months from now is that's just a weekend away for me. But when you say too late for what?
For the fear to have set in, like 6 months later, if our economy is still shut down and there's still these, you have to wear a mask, you can't go out, you can't open your business, habits are formed by then in a lot of ways. Like, that's a really long time. To me, it feels like at that point, things are already set in motion enough that they're that much harder to change.
Let me go it this way. And I think changing human behavior is really tough. And we want to be with people. Can you imagine a summer in Colorado without concerts at Red Rocks? Can you imagine it without the Rockies games going? And at some point, we want to do this. If we had the testing, I'm convinced that a good 20% of us have already had this and have built up an immunity to it. They call it herd immunity, but I don't know if it's going to be that easy. I want the world to open up, but I've come to realize I'm in a minority. A lot of people want to stay home and feel safe. And it's one of the things I've learned, particularly on the gun control debate, which is people don't want to be safe. They want to feel
They want
safe.
the illusion of safety. I got to have a... Oh,
if
sorry.
If they want to be safe, they have to open up the economy so that we have the resources to keep people safe. Anyway, I interrupted you, Abby. Finish that up.
Well, I was going to say I flew through Chicago this weekend and I got to sit at a bar and have a beer and a burger and a conversation with someone, and it was amazing.
Terrific. Good for you. Let's bring it over. Let's bring it over to Grover.
Can I ask one more question as well?
Ahead. Go ahead, Abby.
That's more tax related. Early on, I was talking to a friend who we disagree so much that we haven't been talking recently. And she said, well, the big problem with all of this is that because of Tabor, we can't raise taxes to pay for all these things. Is Tabor in danger because of the government overreach?
Tabor, our taxpayer bill of rights, is always in danger.
Sure, but is it more in danger?
I think it is more in danger. There is a proposal this fall to put in a progressive income tax. I believe that there are two pillars that keeps Colorado. One is our taxpayer bill of rights, which says we get a vote on these things and we have limits to how much government can grow, and our flat tax rate, which was put into the Constitution after Tabor, but we at Independence got it into law before. Both of those are now on the ballot this fall. Our response at Independence Institute is to put a competing measure on, which is to lower the flat income tax rate. The progressive tax increase will be billed as a middle class tax cut. You can almost hear Jared Polis talking about a middle class tax cut. Well, I want a middle class tax cut. I want a lower class tax cut. I want an upper class tax cut because I want to get the engine of Colorado going. But you're damn right. They're going to go right after Tabor as they always do. And this time they're going to say, because we have such needs that this recession has done.
And then they'll still somehow target the wealthy that they've been kicking the crap out of with all of the business.
Let's bring it. Grover's point of view
targets.
on this is, and he's been involved in the Tabor fight and what other states have been trying to do something like Tabor. How important is the Taxpayer Bill of Rights, Grover, to what we're doing? To the nation.
Taxpayer Bill of Rights in Colorado is a model for all other states. Your single rate tax, that 16 states have a single rate tax. Before I moved to the United States, I used to live in Massachusetts, and we have a single rate tax in Massachusetts, which is about 5.1%, Massachusetts. 5 times the left has put on the ballot in Massachusetts, let's go to a graduated income tax, the grad tax, the progressive tax. 5 times liberal, Democrat, Ted Kennedy, George McGovern, Massachusetts, has voted down a graduated income tax because they have on talk radio and person to person this conversation, which is year one, they promise it'll be a tax cut for the middle class and only the Kennedy kids will pay more. But year two, when the Kennedy kids' interests and your interests are no longer aligned and they come back for you, nobody's going to be there to help protect you. The single rate tax means that everyone stands together. When the governor says, we've got a great idea, you're all going to pay for it. Well, if we're all paying for it, we're all listening. It's when they say, I've got a great idea, 2 of you will be paying for it. The rest of you might want to leave the room because this isn't going to be fun or quiet or pleasant to watch, but we're just going to get the money out of these 2 guys. The left can't take on everyone at once. They have to take us out of the room one at a time to raise taxes. The Richard Speck theory of tax increases. If you can't take on the whole room, you take them out of the room one at a time. Hold the line here, not just on Tabor, but on the single rate. That's why Florida works. That's why Texas works. That's even why Massachusetts kind of works. So they don't have Tabor, but they do have Prop 13, which keeps property taxes down.
The demographic changes. The demographic changes in Colorado are pretty telling. That over the years, most of the immigration coming into Colorado comes from California, then New York, then Illinois, places where people are fleeing high tax states. The migration out of Colorado, real Coloradans who need to become refugees, they're going to Wyoming, they're going to Texas, and they're going to Florida. Those are the top 3 states. Why? Yeah. They have no income tax. And so it's going to be a big fight. Let's keep rolling with this. We were trying to talk to Gary. And by the way, if you're calling in, don't touch your mute or unmute button. We are in control here. We are like the mayor of Denver. We control when you can speak and how you can do it. We'll turn it off. Let's talk to Gary. Gary, welcome. So glad to have you. Love your hat.
Thank you. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you, but sadly, I can also see you.
I have one little comment and then a small question. The comment was, they've compared this epidemic to Vietnam. In Vietnam, I never wore a flak jacket, and yet I have to wear a face mask now to go into Walmart. But the question I have, I'm not sure, but I think that Fort Collins passed a ordinance or whatever that you can be fined for not wearing a face mask. But I think they also passed something that said the ladies could go topless. So in Fort Collins, are the ladies topless with a face mask?
Let me tell you this. So I live in Boulder, Colorado, and people wonder that, why live in the Berkeley of the Rockies? because I remember it was in the, let's see, early 1990s. I was sitting out on my stoop in downtown Boulder when this beautiful topless woman walked by, which is perfectly legal in Boulder. And I smiled and waved at her, and she smiled and waved back at me, and cut across my lawn and went on her way. I've been sitting out on my stoop every day at the same time now for 33 years. And so it's part of, apparently, the Board of Tourism does it. I don't know what happens. So you're going to the issue of civil liberties, and it's true. The argument that the left is going to give you is that the woman who's topless, and God bless her for it, she is not killing anybody. But when you go to Walmart without your mask, you are killing people. And by the way, I think it's great if Walmart wants to make a rule saying, hey, if you're going to come here, you need to wear a mask. Costco's doing that. They're private businesses. They should have the ability to do so. Grover, is there anything on the national level that's trying to implement what these policies have to be at state and locals? Is there an argument is being made to test federalism? As you said, the states now have control, but aren't there certain things that go beyond federalism? If some county in Texas wants to bring back slavery, we're going to say no because we still have these overriding principles. That way, localities can't become tyrants. Where's the balance in it?
Well, you've seen Attorney General Bill Barr, come out and say, look, if you start messing with churches, synagogues, and mosques, we're going to be right there. And they've been sending letters out to mayors and so on who've been going after people's First Amendment rights on freedom of religion. I'd like them to do the same thing on the Second Amendment. I think it does make sense to do exactly that. And the Attorney General says we're going to be protecting constitutional rights. They've got several months ahead of us where they're going to be ending up doing more and more of this.
Tell you what, we've got about 3 or 4 more Zoomers. Let's see if we can get through all these great folks. And by the way, you have to be drinking here because when we have fun, they cry. I don't know what it is, but it's worth it. Let's talk to Rich Painter. Hey, Rich, tell me, what are you drinking tonight? Howdy, Rich. Rich, I know you're there. I can hear you. Just start talking. There you are. Oh, you're unmuted, but I still can't hear you. And by the way, that is the worst wig I have ever seen on anybody. Now I can hear you.
It's not a wig.
I'm sorry. It must be a weave then.
No, it's real. It's the Armstrong Custer look. or if you're a Babylon 5 fan, it's
I am. Wait. Don't tell me. It's oh, what is his name? Oh, go ahead and tell me. Zeros or something.
I'm sorry, not Bab 5. SG1. System
SG1.
Lord Cronus.
All right, no, then you are too geeky for me. I don't even know what that is.
Don't
worry though. Someday there might be a woman who dates you.
Yeah, well, my wife, I suppose. So.
No, I'm talking about one who doesn't need a green card.
Oh, well, I don't live in Boulder, so that won't help.
Okay.
Thank you for having me. A comment and then a question related to it. And this touches on something Abby, I think her name was, who's working on. A number of constitutional experts have said the Constitution, and in particular the Bill of Rights, are not conditional. Yet we have lots of tyrants now who claim they're doing things in science, yet they won't quote any true science, and say we have to do these things in conflict to the Bill of Rights, which they have already swore to, by the way. What can we do to hold them accountable to the framework we established and agreed to?
Let me take my first shot at this. I want Grover to take a shot as well, which is fear is this incredible eraser of logic. When people are afraid, their logic just flows out their ears. There was a time where we put Japanese Americans into concentration camps because we were afraid. And today we think, well, we would never do that because we're so much more evolved. Well, that's crap. We are not much more evolved when we are scared. And that's why forcing people to talk about their principles the way the left used to, the way those of us who were raised in the 70s, we couldn't turn on a TV without some ACLU type talking about how due process matters and you're innocent until proven guilty and the ends don't justify the means. And now they're gone, which means we're the ones who need to grab that banner and run with it. I just don't think we have made that argument. I don't think we have challenged people. And we've got to talk to our neighbors. We've got to talk to our friends. We've got to challenge them on the very principles that they say they hold. Grover, tell me what can be done.
Vote, get your friends to vote, get your neighbors to vote, remind them to vote, drive them to the polls. We have to win this at the ballot box. When you win it at the ballot box, then you get to appoint the judges, and then the kind of defense of the Constitution can possibly happen. We need another 2 Supreme Court justices. We need the president reelected. We need different legislators. Just vote, vote, vote. Talk to people.
Handicap the presidential race right now. There are rumors buzzing that if Vice President Biden somehow seems so unelectable that his best meme I've ever seen was him wearing a mask, but there was a hole cut in for the nose, and it just says the news story was, I think it was from Babylon Bee. Vice President Biden cuts nose hole in mask so he can smell women's hair. If that's the guy that comes out, could they possibly replace him with somebody like Cuomo, who the media just adores? Handicap this race where it stands today.
Interestingly, he's been endorsed by all the people you think would plot against him. Hillary Clinton and Obama and so on, the people who could sit down, 5 of them in a room, and possibly do something. He has all these delegates that are committed to him. I don't know how you undo this. I think it's a wise move. You're starting to see some liberal Democrats beginning to chat about this problem they have. And now he's got a Me Too problem with everything that Kavanaugh's accusers didn't have. Does exist with Biden. So he is not a particularly strong candidate. Cuomo now has the problem where he told all of the old folks' homes, you have to take these people with the COVID virus and take them in your inside your buildings for retirement facilities. And that's where they had so many of the deaths. If you want to say somebody made a decision which caused deaths, Cuomo did, when he took people who had the disease and sent them into the retirement facilities, where then people died as a result. So their bench is really, really weak. Biden's actually pretty good if you look around who they might run at. I mean, remember they glommed onto him because they were terrified of Bernie and some of these other characters that might end up being the nominee. So one of the things to keep in mind is how pathetic their list of potential presidential candidates was this time around. But for all of his weaknesses, Biden was the best, which says a lot about all the other characters they were thinking of running.
You mentioned
everything.
You mentioned
problem.
You mentioned the court that we need two more. I'm pulling this up from Fox News.
Yeah.
Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg was hospitalized with an infection caused by a gallstone, the court announced today, saying she's expected to remain in the hospital for a day or two. Now, I'm convinced she is immortal, that she will just never die. And it means that we have to win. Trump has to win, because the only backstop to what is going on around the nation are the courts.
Yeah, absolutely.
How does Trump win?
Trump wins by winning the same states he won last time, and he can give one or two of them away. There is a shot he could win a state like New Hampshire that he lost. It's only 4 votes, but it's not nothing on electoral votes. Wisconsin, I think, is in good shape. Pennsylvania, I always worry that they can steal out of Philadelphia. Michigan, there's a very strong Senate candidate. Their governor's making herself less popular, being a little extreme on this whole COVID thing. Iowa's in strong position. Florida's doing better. The president's in a much better position than he was 4 years ago. But he's got to get back out there and do those rallies. He's got to get back out there and ID voters. And he has to reach out to threatened voters. He did the right thing on vaping for 14 million Americans that the Democrats want to ban vaping, and he stopped that from happening. The FDA was screwing around trying to ban vaping when they should have been focused on viruses. That's the kind of politicized FDA we had. The CDC was doing gun control instead of viruses. We really do need to talk to some of these bureaucracies which were not doing what they needed to do, and they were playing games on behalf of the left on this. But look, if we remember to vote and we get to people on their vote moving issues, again, 14 million vapors, they're going to have that taken away if the Democrats win the presidency. Anybody who cares about school choice, the Democrat appointees to courts will take that away state by state and nationally. The 3 million children who go to charter schools, the teachers unions, and Biden has told the teachers unions, I will crush those charter schools for you. Everybody did in order to get the NEA endorsement. So the other team has threatened all of the various parts of the modern Reagan Republican vote. And to add to that, Biden's weird foreign policy stuff. So he's always very soft on China, on real things like their trade problems, as well as how they treat other countries.
Wouldn't it be crazy if Trump's anti-China stance, which I'm not a fan of, and I'm not a fan of his trade policy, but if the backlash to all this coming from China, and I loved it when he called it the Chinese flu, and I love the backstory why he stopped calling it the Chinese flu, but there is a possibility that resonates with a lot of Americans who are hurt by this virus.
Oh, absolutely. And I think if Biden stands up with it, one of the reasons he doesn't want people looking at his Senate files is all the things he's done and said, both with Russia. He and Hillary were very big on the reset button with Russia, which is why I thought that was an odd choice for them to pretend that Russia wanted Trump, right? Russia wanted the guy who was going to expand America's oil and natural gas production and make Russia irrelevant in the world, in the energy zone, and the guy who was going to significantly increase our defense budget. That made all the sense in the world. No, it didn't. It made no sense at all. But that's what they were left with their attacks. Like the other teams have also been blinded by their hatred of Trump and of the American people who support and voted for Trump. They can't see straight. They don't know how to deal with it. They end up sounding crazy to people. I think we look. It was 50-50 the last time. It was knife's edge. It may be again. But if you voted for Trump the last time, chances are you're pretty happy with what you got, because he kind of did exactly what he said he was going to do. And there are a bunch of Republicans who didn't think he would give you conservative courts. He did.
Then there were a bunch of guys like me who were dragged voting for Trump, kicking and screaming, thinking this is a bad idea, only to be pleasantly surprised for the most part. And I always said from the beginning, I will judge him not by what he says, not by what he tweets, not by what ridiculous lie he puts out, but what his actions are, who he nominates, what he puts his name to on a bill, and who he what executive actions. Tell you what, we got a few more Zoomers. Let's see if we can get through at least 3 of these, and then we're going to let you go to bed because I know it's way past your bedtime. So let's talk to who are we talking to? Let's talk to Sean. Sean Martin, tell me, what are you drinking tonight? Hey, Sean, we'll take care of your microphone. Don't worry. I can hear you, Sean. Just start talking. Sean going once. Sean going twice. All
I'm
right,
here.
Sean. Oh, there he is. Is he there?
I'm drinking Glenmorangie.
Glenmorangie. It's pronounced
Yeah.
Glenmorangie.
After one is Ranji. So I got a question.
What is that T-shirt, by the way? What T-shirt are you wearing? Uh-oh, I think you froze. So much scotch will freeze. I tell you what, let's talk to Eric instead. Don't worry, we'll try to get back to you, Sean. Hey, Eric, tell me, what are you drinking?
I'm drinking what I was last time, which is 90 shilling beer.
But it's so sad. It's actually the same beer from last week. So you are really nursing it.
Same brand, but I love these Tuesday meetings. They give me a chance to drink during the week.
You don't need an excuse to drink during the week.
I know,
if the founders believed in anything, it was day drinking.
Hey, I'm for it.
Right.
I'm for it. Here's an issue that I'll bring up. It's whether it's related or not. People have been asking, like, what's it going to take? What's it going to take? Well, for me, the 64-year-old who has not had coronavirus, who spent time working in a nursing home, exposed to people who are sick, the issue for me is going to be this. When November rolls around and I get symptoms, I want to be treated. If I get symptoms and I want to be treated, I'll tell you with what? The hydroxychloroquine cocktail. I've been doing a lot of research on it, and I'm assembling a Word document with numerous links to it. Guys, I'm sorry. I believe this works. I've been on zinc for a year now, and this is the first winter in 4 that I haven't been down hard for 4 weeks with the virus.
And I will agree with you as well that cocktails solve most problems. So well done. More power to you. Let me go over to Grover for a second. On the medical front, you and I are not the guys, Grover, to be talking about what medicine works. Although we both agree that Lysol will definitely cure any of these diseases. But beyond Lysol, I don't know what the answer is. I do know folks in some of the biosciences, and they're the ones I've talked to are surprisingly optimistic that we will find treatments that are effective by a lot of the drugs we already have. How do we light a fire under this so that by the time fall hits again, we're ready?
We get the FDA out of the way and the CDC out of the way, and we do what they finally did on AIDS, which was to say, we're not going to slow this down, and we're not going to insist on perfect being the enemy of the good. If something works, then we're going to go ahead with it, and we're not going to sit here and delay and tell people, well, you may die, but in 3 years, we're going to keep studying this to make sure it's safe after you're gone. If somebody's got a fatal disease, they should be able to have access to drugs that might help and not have those delayed. That's what Right to Try, which, whoa, Nelly.
Yeah, by the way, that's one of the signals that it's getting close to closing time at the Studio B bar.
Sorry, I was gesturing and up went the iPad. So I do think that we're hearing all of these different signals of progress in various ways. Hopefully we'll get that sooner rather than later. But if we do, it's because we went around and ignored a lot of the bureaucrat expertise, which said, no, Mother May I, you have to ask me permission, and you can't do anything until I've decided it's safe and effective. We have got a lot of scores to settle with the bureaucracy about how they handled this issue.
Tell you what, Grover, I know it is so late where you are, and I know how early it is. Let's just do one more call and let's say goodnight to you, because I want to be respectful of your time. You got important stuff to do, and I'll grab a couple of these other Zoomers after we leave. But let's see if Sean Martin is back with us. So, Sean, are you with us this time?
I'm
your
here.
Connection a little bit better. Glad to have you. What are you drinking?
I'm here. It's the Glenmorangie.
Glenmorangie. Glenmorangie. It doesn't matter when you're drunk. It all sounds the same.
Yeah, it's all good. Hey, this question goes mostly to, I think, Grover's wheelhouse. And it's with the understanding that debt is definitely the enemy of liberty. And my concern is I need some optimism, I guess. With all the trillions of dollars we're piling on in debt, I can't see a way out of skyrocketing taxes and or hyperinflation. Tell me I'm wrong.
You're wrong, but
Good.
only if we work very hard are you wrong. If we get sidetracked, you could be right. Look, Biden is running for president. His tax increases are $3.4 trillion that he's willing to admit to over the next decade. Hillary was $1 trillion. He is 3 times more the high tax guy than Hillary Clinton, and she was rejected at the polls. So the United States is seriously against raising taxes. The left, I was talking to the Senate president in a blue state telling me we're not going to raise taxes this year, which surprised me a great deal. But the other team lusts after tax increases to pay for X, reason being whatever they, virus or whatever it is. There's always a reason, different reason, but they want the money for all their friends. In the red states, they're planning on stopping Democrat governors from getting a tax increase, period. And even in the blue states, they're terrified of raising taxes because they think they'll get damaged for it. So the no tax increase pledge, the Tabor spending limits are our best defense.
Let me challenge you on that, Grover, because I don't know if I agree. And that I remember decades ago, you and I talking, and your idea, which is if we stop taxes, then sooner or later, all the left interests start looking at each other. They're all in the same lifeboat, and all of a sudden they think, well, we throw that guy over, we can win. That works so long as government can't just print more money and go into debt into an just ridiculous amount. At some point, maybe it's not right now because I've been wrong about this before, at some point there has to be a sizable amount of inflation to take care of our debt issue. And as long as they can print money, they can still control our lives. So until we have a balanced budget amendment, I don't see how we stop them. Do you?
Well, this spending they're doing, the several $1 trillion of spending, this is temporary stupid. It's very stupid, but it's temporary stupid. Had they raised taxes, it would have been a permanent IV in our veins for the next 100 years. The Spanish-American War, we raised taxes on phones, the federal excise tax. That tax lasted 100 years after the war ended. So when they raise taxes to fix a temporary crisis, a virus, a war, and leave the tax in place, they've permanently ratcheted up government spending. That's where we have to hold the line. The idea that if we gave them higher taxes, they wouldn't take all that money and still do the debt. Yes, they would. Yes, they would. Keep taxes low. And at the state level, there are serious limits to how much you can borrow as opposed to the federal government. All tax increases are permanent grants of power to the state because a tax increase is about as permanent as a constitutional amendment.
Yes, but you and I joined hands figuratively and then literally after a few drinks when Obama went 700, 800 billion in debt. Now, within a couple of months, within a month and a half, Republicans have signed on to a $3 trillion debt deal. And this is under our watch. Under George W.'s watch, spending and debt went crazy as well. So I see it under Republicans. I see it under Democrats. Unless we find a way to stop printing money out of nowhere and stealing it from our grandkids, I don't know if they're ever going to stop. There has to be something.
If we hadn't lost the House to Nancy Pelosi, you would not have seen this level of spending. There would have been offsets on spending other places.
I can't believe you. I cannot believe you because it was under a Republican president, a Republican Congress, a Republican Senate that spending grew faster than when LBJ was president. When Bush was president, we had bridges to nowhere. We outlawed light bulbs. We put in campaign spending limits. And this was when our team finally got control of all the power.
Bush did with the occupation of Iraq and Afghanistan what the virus has done. It was the excuse for massive spending increases. We have a president who I don't quite fully understand his position on free trade, or rather, I don't think it makes economic sense. But his view on let's not have lots of wars that last forever and cost billions is a tremendous step forward on the limitation of state power and expenditures. Imagine this on top of a war. And the president's been offered several wars. How about here? How about here? How about here? And he keeps turning them down, which is really appreciated. I would argue that the modern Republican Party is becoming more and more Reaganite, and that includes Reagan never fought any wars. Reagan just kept the country strong enough that the other team collapsed. He didn't go occupy anybody. He was offered the opportunity to manage the Lebanese civil war for 15 years. He said, thank you, no. They had a perfectly fine civil war all by themselves without us spending any money or losing any people, they wanted us to stay. So I do see the party moving in generally the right direction, but the cost of losing the House or the Senate is very, very expensive. And we are seeing that now. We need to take that House back. We need to hold that Senate, and we need to elect the appointer of Supreme Court justices again.
Grover, I'm going to let you go
and cut the capital gains tax.
I'm going to let you go and have a life because your daughters need you and they're young and gorgeous. People want to get more information about ATR and what you do. Where do they go?
Sure, atr.org, atr.org. I tweet it at Grover Norquist, and we'd love to have people take a look at our list of the deregulatory actions of the federal and state governments at atr.org/rules.
And finally, how important is it that libertarians and conservatives drink?
It is important that we do anything and everything that gets us together, thinking and plotting and working together. And having a good drink here or there is a very, very good idea. I do remember that it's the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. So, I mean, it's just the liquor here today. I'm afraid I don't see any firearms or cigars, but
they're here.
Oh, okay, good. Just we're going to have a broad movement, including all the important parts of the conservative movement: alcohol, tobacco, and firearms.
And by the way, you were I think you might have been our first or second speaker at our famed alcohol, tobacco, and firearms party.
That's so cool.
Yeah, this was, oh my God, it's got to be at least 17 years ago. And so thank you for always being there for us. We appreciate it. I'm going to let you go and have a wonderful night, but we'll grab a couple more of these Zoomers.
John, if every state had an Independence Institute and every state had a John Caldera, we would be infinitely better off. So you are a model for all state activity, what you've done for Tabor, what you've done with the Institute. And to do it all in a square state is very impressive.
I know that's just the Jack Daniels talking, but I will take it, my friend. Thank you so much.
Take it easy.
Let's grab just a couple more of these Zoom calls. Let's talk to Louisa. Louisa, tell me, what are you drinking tonight?
I'm drinking Diet Pepsi because I'm a serious person.
Then why are you wasting your time with me?
There's nothing quite so much fun as watching people who've had too much.
Well, then I'll just put a webcam in my kitchen.
No, I apologize for the lighting in my shot. I'm used to Zooming during the broad daylight in my Zoom room, as it were.
That's okay. You look very mysterious.
Yeah. Woo. No, I had a question about voting by mail. Several of my lefty friends swear by it. They think it's the end all. And because Colorado's had vote by mail with relatively few substantiated cases for fraud, they seem to believe that vote by mail is really the future. And with the COVID-19, that seems to be certainly something that's pressing forward. My concern is, though, with ballot harvesting with abandoned ballots in apartment buildings and so forth, and just the sheer lack of anything but my county clerk and recorder's fastidiousness with signatures. There's very little standing in the way of wholesale voter fraud.
I couldn't agree with you more. Let me take a couple shots at this because this has been a bit of a passion for me. There's a reason why the left loves mail-in balloting, and I don't think we're going to get rid of it. So we're going to have to get better at what we do. We need to understand what mail-in ballots have done is they've turned a election day into an election month. Now, why is this important for the left? Because as we vote, every day the Secretary of State tells us who's voted. So we know that if we talk to Louisa, she's going to vote our way, and she hasn't gotten her ballot in. And the left's data is so good, they know that we're going to call her, we're going to text her, we're going to Facebook her, we're going to knock on her door to get her ballot because we know how she's going to vote. And then we know who's going to win before the election is even over. And it gets better. Colorado is the only state in the union that has all mail-in ballots and same-day voter registration, which means if we find out that in your district we're 20 votes short because we're keeping track of who voted and we know with our algorithms how people are going to vote, we just make more voters. We go out and harvest more voters. And if it's at CU up in Boulder, we give them pizza, we bring them down. And the new voting law that passed last year requires a voting center on college campuses, not at police stations, but it requires it on all college campuses so they can bring in young liberals. They know what they're doing. The reality is the only way to fight that is to either be right, which means we're just going to lose again, or to get better at ballot harvesting ourselves. There is nothing that the left does that we cannot do better and that we cannot do for half the price because we're not stoned all the time. So the question is, how do we start building up our operations to knock on the doors of people who we know will vote for us or our way? It's not rocket surgery. It's just hard work. All right. Hey, thanks. You have a great night. I tell you what, let's talk to Steve Mueller, not because I want to, but because I owe him money and I better be nice to him. Steve Mueller, what are you drinking tonight?
Well, John, cheap scotch as usual.
That blended whiskey.
Yeah, and I'm also wearing my Cabo San Lucas shirt in honor of Cinco de Mayo.
Happy Cinco de Mayo.
So happy Cinco de Mayo. Yeah, and my dad died 22 years ago today.
Really?
Yeah, always a bad day. So,
well, sorry to hear that. I know you you loved him greatly.
Listening to you tonight, and especially seeing Grover, I think you and I and a few other people went to dinner at Racine's with Grover many years ago, and I met him. I was very impressed. I'm still impressed. I wanted to thank him so much for sharing his insights with us here. And I loved it when Obama actually named him, as the thorn in Obama's side. And I'm hoping that the same thing will happen for Joe Biden with Grover as well.
I hope so too.
So it was a nice evening, John. Thank you very much.
Well, keep on keeping it up, and thanks for everything you do for us, Steve.
Thanks,
I tell you what, let's take one last Zoom call because the Coyote Gold margarita now in 2 different cans, including this great low carb stuff. Because not that I need it, because I got this going on. Oh, by the way, they've been doing this for years. You want to bring out your kiddiness of it? They got margarita pops. Yeah, you put them in the freezer, and then you feed them to your kids. No, you don't feed them to your kids. All right, let's grab our last call, our last Zoomer. Hey, Christopher, what are you drinking tonight? Oh, having a hard time hearing you there, but we'll get your microphone on. I tell you what, hold up your drink. We'll figure it out. It's probably a Shirley Temple.
No,
there we go.
It's an IPA pale.
It's amazing. Most people love IPAs. IPAs, I think, are kind of the Colorado standard. Who makes your IPA? Which one is it?
Left Hand in Longmont.
They're communists.
No, I didn't know that.
They're left. Actually, I don't think they're nearly as bad as New Belgium. New Belgium are definitely communists. I've heard that Oscar Blues, the guy who does Oscar Blues, is rather libertarian, but just drink all the beer there is just to be safe.
Okay. So my question is stimulus, and I don't believe this myself, but stimulus from the federal government is a good thing, but it's only good for small businesses and it's not good for big businesses. Now, again, I'm not in favor of government stimulus, especially with money that we don't have, but I don't understand why big businesses don't need it just as much as small businesses.
Or why small businesses need it as much as big businesses. The the best thing that I think Trump did with this was to get money into the hands of human beings. What Obama did with his stimulus is he poured it into government pork projects, which were supposedly shovel ready, but of course they weren't shovel ready. And it was a way to dole out things politically. If you want to give everybody $1,200 or whatever, at least you're giving money directly to people to spend the money where they see fit. That is not a political game as much as saying, we're going to build this road, we're going to build that solar farm and this wind farm. The best thing to do, however, now that we have flattened the curve, is to get to work. We need to do a much better job of getting out the message. If you care about lives, if you want to save lives, we got to get out and reignite this economy. And oh, by the way, the Bill of Rights counts too. So that's my take on it. Hey, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate it, Christopher. I want to thank everybody for we've been doing this now for about a month. We'll do a few more of these, I bet. The whole idea was to get people together, to have a beer and to talk, to have a little fun, and to break the quarantine. Now that the quarantine is over, maybe we'll do this every other week. Maybe we'll do it every week. I'm not certain. Let me know what you think. You know, at the Independence Institute, we believe that in order for the revolution to be sustainable, it's got to be fun. I remember the Tea Party movements a decade ago, and people were angry. And anger doesn't hold. Anger doesn't work in the long term because you can't be angry all the time. What we try to do at the Independence Institute is make the revolution enjoyable. We want people to be part of it. If you're not part of it, please join our mailing list. Go to thinkfreedom.org. Thinkfreedom.org. If you want to help us out, because we have a pretty powerful Scotch and margarita budget that needs to be filled, we'd love your help. But we want you to get involved, and we want you to have fun with what we do. I want to give a special shout out to Maureen and Randy over at Coyote Gold. Really, this is some terrific stuff now in cans, so you can walk from your essential liquor store to your party or even your home. Coyote Gold has been the official sponsor of so many of the things that we've done here at the Independence Institute. I'm just very, very grateful. Please give them a try. Next time you're in the liquor store, just pick up this or margarita mix. It's already mixed for you. Just do it. It's good. Trust me, the more of this you buy, the better I look. I want to thank everybody. And wherever you are, let's have a toast to liberty and what Colorado used to be, the freest state in the nation. Good night, Nostrovia.